I'm going to take you through the whole process of buying your first investment property in the UK from start to finish. This is the stuff they won't teach you at school, but I will. So I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process of getting on the property ladder. Let's get into it. So the very first step is to figure out your finances, because ultimately it's your budget that will determine what kind of property you can buy. So if you have your finances in order from the very start, you're off to a good start, right? Because if this is your first time, finances can get confusing. How do they work? What you can afford? So my tip for this is to get a broker. Use a recommendation from your friends, your family, social media, or internet, or whatever it is. But what I always recommend, whether you're new or whether you're experienced, to use a mortgage broker. I mean, I still consistently use a mortgage broker even though I'm fairly experienced in the property world, and it's because they will help you massively. They will make sure to guide you through the whole process of finding the best deal for you based on your budget, your affordability, and your criteria. So trust me, a good broker will make a huge difference in finding the right deal for you and guiding you throughout the whole process. Once you start working with a broker, what they'll do is they'll essentially be able to give you a sort of an idea of what kind of mortgage you can get. Typically, you'll need a 25% deposit to purchase a buy-to-let, and your affordability is based more on the suitability of the property and the expected rental income rather than your salary or your personal expenditure. Mortgage lenders use stress tests on rental income to see if it covers the mortgage payments, basically. Another important thing to do, which most people don't at the very beginning, including myself, is to get a mortgage in principle or an agreement in principle, AIP. And this is basically an agreement from a lender confirming how much they're likely to lend you, right? And the reason why having a mortgage in principle or an AIP is important, because that way sellers and agents know that you're serious and that you're ready to go. And when you have one of these in place, or if you don't have one of these mortgage in principles in place, it could be that your agent, the estate agent or the seller, may not take you seriously and they may not even consider your offer. So just get it done, get it out the way, because that way you can hit the ground running.
We'll get back to the video in a few seconds, but 70% of you watching this video aren't subscribed to my channel. Please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and buy more properties in the next few months. I'll be sharing everything so you can learn from my mistakes for free. Anyways, back to the video.
Number 2 is finding a solicitor. Now, the reality is you won't need a solicitor yet, but at the same time, you will need one. So it's like, why not just speed the process up and be prepared? Because if you're there, close to having an offer accepted, and the estate agents ask, who's your solicitor, and you haven't got one, it's not really going to look great, is it? So yeah, just like a broker, get a solicitor right from the start, preferably from recommendations, because the thing with recommendation is that at least that way, you know they're fairly verified, they've been tested out, rather than you going in blind and just trying out any solicitor without any knowledge about them in the first place. So always minimize your risk by trying to get a recommendation. And I'll give you one of my mistakes I made originally. I made the mistake of going to a local solicitor and thinking, yeah, that was the way to go. But times have changed now, and you can find a solicitor from the internet very easily. For context, apart from my first solicitor, since then I've used 8 solicitors and I've never met any of them face to face. It's always done by email, contact by Google Meet, or a telephone call. So yeah, start looking for a solicitor early, have one lined up before making an offer, so that way when you are ready to proceed again, you can just hit the ground running. Okay, so you've got yourself a broker, a solicitor, then it's time for probably the most important and maybe even the most exciting part, to start looking for properties and researching the market. Now, hopefully you're aware of the online platforms like Rightmove, Zoopla, and On the Market, and they will be able to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But what these platforms won't be able to do is help you figure out which areas are good for high rental demand, which areas have good reliability, and which areas have good growth potential. So these platforms, they'll be able to show you the properties, but they won't be able to tell you which properties or which areas are good, and that's where you have to do your own research. Now, I could create a whole another YouTube video about what makes a good area and so on, but if it's got good amenities around it, like good school, hospital, transport links, shops, basically a lot happening in the area. You can't really go wrong. But remember guys, you're here to make money with property, so stick to formulas over feelings. This is an investment, not your dream home. Always run the numbers to make sure they make sense. So what do I mean by do the numbers make sense? Things like you really have to consider, does a property offer good rent? Does it offer a good return on investment? Those are things you have to pay attention to, instead of, oh, does that house have a nice island kitchen? Does it have nice flooring? Try to focus on the potential of the property rather than its current state, and you'll be fine. And that's one of the most important parts when it comes to investing. You almost have to picture the property, what it's going to be like in the future, rather than what it looks like now, because that's essentially where you make the money. You don't make the money on what the current condition of the property is now. It's what you can convert it to. It's what you can turn the property into, and that obviously always happens in the future, so always think forward. Then at that point you should have a good idea of what kind of properties to look out for. You start viewing properties, and then eventually you'll find one that you like, the numbers make sense, and you make an offer. Now, because I've seen this so many times, it's important for me to tell you this, which is stay unemotional. If you had a final offer in mind, stick to it. If you thought to yourself, I'm not going to go any higher than this particular number, stick to it. If there's a certain purchase price where it makes sense for you, then stick to that, because the last thing you really want to do is let your emotions get the better of you, where you now feel very invested in all of this and you kind of force yourself to make a deal happen. I've done it before, it doesn't work out, because if you start bidding more than what you originally thought, trust me, you won't be happy, you won't make money, and it's most likely that you'll be put off by this whole property thing. And if that means you have to walk away from a property, so be it. If your offer gets rejected, then that's fine. In fact, you should be thankful, because I always say that if your offer got rejected and you couldn't bid anymore, then it wasn't a good deal for you in the first place anyways. I would rather get a no than say a yes to a good deal that is no longer a good deal. So yeah, once you've had an offer accepted, then the lender will send out a surveyor to go and carry out a valuation on the property. And the whole point of this is so the lender has a peace of mind that the property that you're about to buy and the property they're about to lend on is suitable for actually lending. Now, when this surveyor comes to check the property, it's important to understand that this isn't a full structure or home buyer's survey report where they come to assess the property and tell you of all the faults and defects of the property. Primary job of a valuation surveyor is to check the property's value aligns with the amount the lender is about to lend you. In other words, they just want to make sure the property that they're lending on is safe and that you aren't basically getting ripped off. Now, having said that, I do always recommend to get a home buyer's survey level 2 as a minimum, and this is because that this report will go into a lot more detail into the property's condition and so on. And you know what, if that report comes up with some problems about the property, number one, it gives you a lot more clarity whether you want to go ahead with the purchase or not, and number two, you could actually use a report to go back to the seller and renegotiate the price of the property. So in that sense, it's worth paying for the home buyer's report, simply because it's most likely that you could get your money back just by being able to renegotiate a price or a discount. It's almost like you have to think to yourself, what's the worst that can happen, right? If you don't ask, you don't get. If you do decide to get a home buyer's survey report, and you should, make sure the surveyor is approved by the RICS, which is short for Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. So the next step after that one is one of the most, well, for me anyways, one of the most boring and sometimes stressful parts of the process, which is conveyancing. This is now where your solicitor takes over, and their job is to make sure they're doing all the checks properly before you end up becoming the owner of the property. So the solicitor will handle all the legal checks, they'll be carrying out the searches. The searches gives you a full informed report before committing to the purchase. You've got the local authority search, environmental search, water and draining search, and the best thing is you don't have to do any of these searches yourself, right? Let your solicitor do them, and that way you're covered. Think about it, if you think, oh, it should be fine, and you end up buying a property, let's say in a flood risk zone, your insurance will most likely automatically shoot up by, I don't know, a couple of £1,000 a year, where really you could have just spent like 50 to £100 and avoided that problem. So don't take the chance, don't take the risk. The last thing you want to do is buy a property without them, and then you become liable for a property that may look great on paper but has hidden defects or legal obligations which could, cost you a shitload of money, and it makes you harder for you to make money or even sell in the long run. Yeah, and just a heads up, just so you're prepared, because no one told me this at the start of my property journey, which is this conveyancing can take several weeks. I'm talking 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes even months. Trust me, it's happened to me. The longest I've had is 4 months. I don't even know why. It was crazy. And hopefully yours doesn't take that long, but I'm just letting you know, so you know you have to be patient. And there's a few reasons why the conveyancing stage can take so long. One is because solicitors, most of them are not very good. They're slow, they're overworked, there's a lot of paperwork, so that's one. And they also have to wait for search results to come in, so it's not entirely their fault. Then they have to ask questions to the other solicitors, and then they have to wait for the answers to come back, and so on. So it's a lot of back and forth. So yeah, at this time, the conveyancing stage, you can't really do much about it apart from, keeping communication with them, provide them any documents that the solicitor needs from you, and then hopefully within a few weeks you'll be in a position to complete on the property. And then it's like, congratulations, you've completed on the property. So what actually happens on completion date? Well, once all the funds are transferred and the legal process is finished, you'll officially own the property, and then you can collect keys, take a picture, and so on. But remember guys, the job isn't finished. Now it's time to start making money, but in order to do that, you have to do a few things. Make sure the property meets legal requirements like gas safety, EPC, electrical checks, and your insurance, though most likely your mortgage lender would have required you to insure the property before lending on it anyway, so you'll be covered for that. If you're looking to refurb the property, then you'll have to start preparing for that, whether you're doing it yourself or getting some builders or contractors lined up. Then letting out to tenants or handing over to a letting agent. That in a nutshell is the full process on buying property in the UK in 2025. But if you're looking for some more actionable tips on how to become a better property investor, I'm going to pull up a video called How I'd Invest in Property from Scratch in 2025. Go watch that, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.